when I came into the room, I saw that the first row was empty. I was thinking why. And then I realized the professor is sitting in the first row and everybody is scared of the professor. So don't be shy. Professor will not give assignments or homework or anything. You can come in front and feel free to interact. Yes. My name is Ram, everyone. I work at the OpenSSF. I work on the community side of things. So, my main job is to collect stickers and nice t shirts that come at every conference. But also, I work in bringing a lot of the people together, and I have the fun job of heralding and heading a lot of events. And so, thanks to people from the community, we're able to do the first edition of Open SSF Community Day in Korea. So, we have to really thank the community for this. We have to thank Professor Choi for this, for really going after the Open SSF and trying to bring the event to this geography and things like that. We have a great day of talks. I can't wait to get to it. But also, I have to preface all of the wonderful talks with a little bit of announcements and news and all of that on behalf of the Open SSF. So, um, very quickly, some housekeeping announcements. The first thing is, at every event that's conducted by the Linux Foundation, we insist on people following the code of conduct, which basically is be nice. And having met and shaken hands with a lot of people, I'm sure that won't be a problem in the room, but I'm required to show this. So anything you might have in terms of problems during the event, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you. Second most important thing, take lots and lots of pictures, share them on social media. Our hashtag for today is OpenSSF community. So make sure to tag us. And these are all of our social media accounts. So if you're not following them already, you can use the QR code to get to them. I don't know which ones you're most active on. We don't have a Tinder profile for OpenSSF. Maybe we should in future. I don't know. But getting to the point, what is it that we aim to do at the OpenSSF? Our general manager, Steven Fernandez, often reminds us that the OpenSSF is basically involved in four very critical wings overall. The first one is education. So, our aim is to sensitize a lot of people who are already engineers, who have technical backgrounds, or who work with software and who work with a lot of different computer things, for lack of a better word, and give them the education and the support that they need in order to make them more security capable. Now, there's a lot of people who are great DevOps engineers, but they don't really care about security, right? Because culturally, they're programmed to write a lot of software fast and then deploy that software faster and make it run as fast as possible in production. Every time somebody famous gets on stage, they say, move fast and break things or something like that. But at the OpenSSF, we also have to educate them about, yes, move fast, don't break things, but also, be more security aware. So we invest a lot of our time and a lot of our effort in the realm of education. And you can see through a lot of different courses that we've already published, that is like OpenSSF original content on the Linux Foundation training and education websites. There's a lot of them. Most of them, I guess, are free. So they also come with like a certification at the end. But it's not just about creating and designing courses. This is a much more recent one that we have. So this is about, obviously there has to be something about AI and ML, otherwise nobody will pay attention. But this is AI and ML, but driving secure AI and ML design and development practices. So this is a very recent one that we've just published. I think this is about 2-3 weeks old. So we really appreciate more people taking it and giving us feedback and things like that. But there's also a lot of other initiatives in terms of upskilling and certifications that we offer as part of what we do at the OpenSSF, specifically in the education domain. And one of the action items that I overheard some people talk about earlier today is that for some people, I guess English can be a barrier, especially in this part of the world. So, if you want to do some kind of localization or some kind of on ramp in your local language for this, we highly welcome that kind of effort. So, anything that you can do in terms of basic translation or anything you can do in terms of writing some notes up that in your local language that will help with people learning these things faster, I think that'll be a great first contribution to the community. Now, after education, what we like to do is work on policy. And by policy, I mean work with the public sector. A lot of our efforts have obviously been in the US and Europe because those are traditionally the bigger activity hubs or activity centers for us, but that does not mean that we limit ourselves to that geography. In the US, we worked with the past administration, and there's a lot of work that we're doing specifically tailored towards public policy in the United States. So we work with the government, we work with the United Nations, we work with a lot of agencies whose sole function is to improve the security and cybersecurity preparedness in general. So they appreciate a lot of the effort that we put in and vice versa. And so we've had tremendous success in the past working with these agencies. In the EU specifically, there is what is known as the CRA, and the CRA right now is like very important and very top in terms of awareness for a lot of people about how best to accomplish cyber resilience. So they have a bunch of different mandates, some of which we like, some of which is very difficult, which we have to work with them towards softening. And so there is an ongoing dialogue with the European Union. There's local representatives, there's international representatives, there's a lot of thought leaders, all of whom we bring together and push towards this. And what does that have to do with like the local region? I remember about 10 years ago, I think there was like an open source act in 2014. I can't recall the exact name, but that really pushed some of the open source awareness and some of the open source usage and some of the open source preparedness in Korea specifically. And so if there's newer initiatives like that, specifically in the realm of cybersecurity, then we'd love to hear about it. We'd love to see if there's any way we can help. And we'd love to bring a local community together just to, do more work on working with the central government, with the public sector on some of those initiatives. After policy, the third thing that we like to invest in, community. So that's the place, like I mentioned, I work in the most. So we find a lot of ways to bring the community together. One of the things is we recognize a lot of achievements that people do in the realm of cybersecurity. So if you remember the XZ Utils attack from almost a year ago, I guess now, we honored that person with a golden egg award, and then we honored all of these people in year 2025, and hopefully there'll be a lot of you on this list in the years to come. And so this is just a way for us to showcase that people in the community who are contributing towards cybersecurity, which is one of the most boring spaces and the last spaces I guess that developers will pay attention to, they're all recognized for some of their hard work and some of the work that they're doing in terms of improving what they're doing. We participate in a lot of events, as you can tell. So our next event, sort of flagship kind of event, is the Open Source Security Con. We're working with the CNCF. We're going to be in Atlanta this year, and we're going to make sure that a lot of people who work in the cybersecurity space have a collaborative environment where they can meet, they can exchange ideas, they can listen to talks, they can all come together, and a lot of great ideas, we believe, come from events like these. And so hopefully, so this is, I think, the last big one for the year. 2026 has a huge roster once again. Hopefully we're able to do more than one locally, and hopefully this community is able to drive it. There's also the What's in the Sauce podcast. So Sauce being secure open source software. So if you're already not listening to it, then I encourage you to please do so. We have, like, these are just fun conversations that are recorded and that are published. So a lot of people from the open source space who work in security, who work in open source, who work, at the intersection mostly. Some of it is like community, some of it is deeply technical. You'll find all of that content here. So if you're bored, or if you need some alternative to productivity music, or K-pop, or whatever you have fun listening to, I highly recommend a regular dose of what's in the sauce. After community, I guess the most important and last thing is the projects themselves. So there's a whole raft of projects within the OpenSSF that cover the entire software development lifecycle. So we start at the very beginnings of upstream, where we do a lot of ways to evaluate and build awareness and build education and things like that. And if you're a downstream consumer of open source, we give you some tools to like create SBOMs and report dependencies and find out a lot of things about how your open source software gets consumed, gets used, and goes out there in the world to be used. So in that regard, there's a whole raft of working groups that host like hundreds of different projects that are all open source that you can start consuming. So much like other open source foundations, we also have a sandboxing and an incubating and a graduating phase. And so I think our one graduated project at this moment is Sigstore. We have a whole bunch that are incubating and will soon graduate. And then there's always new projects that are coming into our sandbox. So you can take a look at our repos to know what the projects are. You can participate in the working group meetings to really find out your favorite areas to work. And you can then identify different projects that you specifically want to contribute to. Now, I just want to remind people that code contributions are probably like even like the last thing that I would insist on. There's a lot of work that we need to do just in terms of getting the word out there. So even if you just write a post on LinkedIn, even if you just make like a Korean version of the new open source AI security course or something like that, that's a great contribution to it. Doesn't have to be some very fancy code change to some performance metric or solving a CVE and things like that. All of that is great. Yes, all of that is like the core of what we do, but there's tons and tons of ways to get there and to get people to work on and contribute. So if you're interested in contributing and becoming a part of this, I highly recommend getting into one of the working groups and finding what areas you like to work on and things like that. How do we accomplish all of this work? And that's the more interesting bit of the entire process. So the OpenSSF aims to get to work in with the aid of three very different people in the interest of the larger open source community. And the first part is academia. And very representative of this is some of the projects that are in the OpenSSF called GitTough. It was done at NYU, and all of the work that was done at NYU was donated as an open source project to the foundation, and we've had tremendous success with it. A lot of people have used it, a lot of people have enjoyed it, a lot of people have contributed back to it and built a community around it. So academia is like a big part of what we do at the OpenSSF. And then there's the obvious private sector piece, which is a lot of companies that do commercial software work come together and contribute towards open source projects, towards better things, and towards making the OpenSSF a much more vibrant space. And finally, there's the public sector, and all of these three arms come together. And the private sector is particularly relevant in terms of some of the policy work, in terms of getting a lot of people aware of what the OpenSSF is and what you can do to make open source contributions better. And so that all of these three come together in like a very nice way and build what we see as the OpenSSF community right now. Obviously, there's like OpenSSF staff, and they're like, I guess, the smallest portion of the entire community, but their contributions are great, are important, but that's not the be all and do all of everything. There's a lot of other pieces that go in as well. And so all of us have to come together as a single individual community, and that's really how the OpenSSF gets pushed forward. And that's quite reflective of our agenda today. So we have somebody from academia, we have somebody from the public sector, and we have a whole raft of people from the private sector and companies that do commercial things. And it's reflective in who's present here. It's reflective in our community at large. And we've already taken that first step towards making OpenSSF great. And finally, all of this is made possible thanks to membership at the foundation. So yes, this is a sort of acknowledgement of what a lot of people are doing as our members. But also, if you just take a look at some of our members, this is like our first tier or our associate tier of membership. It's fairly easy to get on there if you're in academia, if you're a fairly small nonprofit but you'd love to contribute in terms of cybersecurity. That's a pretty straightforward thing. A lot of our membership is in the general category. These are a lot of the companies you might recognize. These are all invested in various phases of software development, and they like to be members so that they can participate in the larger dialogue of making software better. So again, more general tier members, a lot of their contributions go into the 4 realms that I was talking about. And then finally, our top tier premier members. So they're all massive advocates of open source, as you can probably tell, some predictable names, but also they've focused a lot of energy in cybersecurity, in software supply chain security, and in furthering the dialogue between software supply chain security and open source security in general with the community that uses them and consumes them. So a big thank you to all of these members. Hopefully we see some names from here as well in the future, and hopefully we can get a lot of you to participate, whether or not you become members in the larger thing. So if you are interested in memberships, in contributing, in being part of the community, whatever it is, don't feel shy. Reach out. I'm here in person only for the next 48 hours, I'm afraid. But you can go to openssf.org. We have a form open there which you can use to contact us. So feel free to reach out with any queries that you might have. We're more than happy to help you. And lastly, have a wonderful event. Okay, this is your day. Make the most of it, and have fun. And like I said in the beginning, don't forget to take pictures and put it on social media. So that's it from me. I'll welcome our next speaker, Professor Choi, who again was very instrumental in getting this event here. And you're going to hear from him, and then you're going to hear from Soan Kim, who's from the Ministry of IT, and then we have a couple of talks by Aditya Soni and Akanksh, who are going to talk about a few security things, and that's going to be our segment until lunch. We have a lunch break after that, and then we come back for a handful of talks after that. Not till the very end of the day, but we're going to end a little earlier, so which is like a great thing, I guess. But hopefully you can make the best of the entire day. Thank you so much once again for coming, and with that I welcome Professor Choi. Thank you.